great. And we have some stragglers, so that's awesome, because I haven't really started yet. All right, welcome to my session on wide audio distribution. And a little bit about me. I'm an audiobook narrator. I've been narrating for about 5 years. I came out of radio. I did NPR radio for 7 years and worked with a PBS station. And a couple of years ago, I started Spectrum Audiobook Publishing, where I produce and publish primarily audiobooks and do distribution, and we also have our own distribution channel. So this discussion is going to get split up into a couple of parts. One where I introduce basically wide distribution and some of the major players and some of the platforms, and then I'll go into a little bit about how to actually do it and some of your tips and tricks, and then at the end I'm going to introduce the distribution platform that Spectrum has developed. Anyway, so good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to everybody on the live stream. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you folks have any questions on the live stream, are they able to post questions in the chat over there? Okay, great. Okay, great. All right, so I start with the word patience because Audible has kind of spoiled everybody a little bit, making it really easy and really quick to get your audiobooks up. And when you go into wide distribution, you're going to be working on a model that is a little bit more like traditional publishing. So it takes months to get into wide distribution, and so patience is your friend. It really and truly is. And, you know, like the slide says, it may not happen in exactly the order that you want it to happen in, but when it does, I guarantee it will be worth it. A lot of authors who do Amazon, they think that because they are in KU and exclusive, that they also have to be exclusive in audio, and that is not true. They are separate entities, so you can go non-exclusive in audio while still staying in KU or on Vela. So going wide, ultimately it means more choice for your listeners, more choice for you. These are some of the major players in this. Authors Republic, Find a Way, which sometimes seem to be the same entity. I'm actually not quite sure what the relationship between the two is, but if you use Authors Republic, you often end up on the Find a Way platform. I'm gonna treat Blackstone a little bit differently because they have a different model than some of the other distributors. Spoken Realms is also owned and operated by a narrator, and I'll talk about that a little bit as well. And then down at the bottom there, Ingram Spark. So anybody who's using Ingram for your hardcover or your ebooks, then you're already going to be familiar with them. They just have a very different platform for setting up your audiobooks. So these folks are basically known as aggregators. So they aggregate a large number of distribution platforms, and on average it's 24 to sometimes 40 platforms that come in under an aggregator, again with Blackstone sort of being the exception to the rule here. So why do you want to go wide? Well, the biggest reason why you want to go wide is because if you're exclusive, then libraries and bookstores cannot carry your books. And if you look at this image, you'll see down there in the little left-hand corner that little Hoopla logo. And during the pandemic, Hoopla borrows absolutely skyrocketed. So if people were in wide distribution, they still continued to make money or increase the amount of money that they made because they were wide instead of just staying on Audible, where people were kind of pinching their pennies and maybe not buying as many books or being careful about how they used their credits. So it really does take 3 to 6 months to get established. Because everybody always wants to know, how does the money work? And I'll get into this in a little bit more detail. But each individual channel under an aggregator, each distribution channel, they have their own royalty structure. They include a royalty split, which you're familiar with if you've done Audible. They have pool play. Pool play is where the listeners pay a monthly subscription, and then all the money that comes in that each month, that is split amongst the authors, so you get a percentage with that. Some of the libraries do pool plus a borrow. So you'll get a percentage for the monthly subscription, plus you'll get, usually it's 45 or 50% of whatever the borrow fee. The borrow fee is usually 99 cents. I've seen it go as low as like 45 cents, you know. And then of course, you know, there's subscription, which pretty much is self-explanatory. So I'm a big fan of passive diversified income, which it really is why distribution is. You know, I mean, you put your stuff on there, you can leave it on there as long as you want. You're not locked into a contract. That's, you know, one of the nice things about this is that you retain a ton of control. So you can decide, oh, I just want to put my stuff up there for a little while and see how it does, and then maybe I'll move it to another platform. You can pick and choose what platforms you want to do, you know, and you really and truly hold the reins with this. And again, you can hire an aggregator to do it, or you can do it yourself, and I'll get into that as well. But, you know, under the different kinds of income, you know, and I'm going to talk about library a little bit first, just is the fact that when you're doing the library model, the borrows really and truly add up. And it's really surprising. You know, I'm always shocked when the numbers come in over the library stuff, because they can consume more media. You know, it just gives everything's wide open for, you know, for the libraries. And the Los Angeles Public Library has said that their borrow rates were up 27% in 2020. So there you go. You know, yes. I'm sorry? Ah, okay. Oh, great. When you do wide distribution, one of the other things that you have control of are rolling promos. Because your content is rolling out on multiple platforms and they take different amounts of time to get established on those platforms, if you are doing Facebook ads or you know, Instagram posts or TikTok or any of that kind of stuff, then you can roll all of those promos so that they're coordinating with the different platforms. So this way, you know, you're not only introducing new audiences because of the platforms, you're constantly keeping that book in, you know, search engine optimization, you know, when you're online and you're doing your promos online. And you know, and the big final point about the diversified income is the fact that audiobook income is just continuing to grow. So why limit yourself to a single platform or a couple of platforms? You know, I really don't think that there's any reason to not do this, but I can understand some of the arguments about why you might not want to. And if you want to ask questions about that, we can definitely get into that. So now that I've kind of done an introduction, did anybody have a question about anything I just kind of ran through? Go ahead. Go ahead again. I'm sorry.
Sorry, yeah, you mentioned the different aggregators. Do they all distribute to the same retailers, or are there differences between them? Do we have to pick more than one aggregator to cover the market?
There are differences between them. So, you know, most of them tend to distribute to a lot of the same platforms. So you can pick and choose what you want to do. Like, all of them tend to distribute to Audible. But if you're already doing Audible, you just pull that out of your contract, you know, and pick and choose what you want to do. Some of them do primarily international, you know. Some of them primarily do educational or children's, or so again, you can also filter that by, you know, your genre or the niche target audience that you want to go into. All right. Okay, so like I said, an aggregator is basically someone who kind of does it all for you. All right? Boy, I can't even read my own slide. It's too faint. And So they're a larger entity, and they have a number of distribution platforms underneath them. Then, of course, you have your distribution platforms. So a distribution platform is Hoopla, Overdrive, Kobo, Libro.fm, Biblioteca, Nextory, any of those. Those are an individual distribution platform, and you can always cut a deal directly with them. And then, of course, you've got your own DIY. So if you sell through your website, or if you're doing a Patreon, or those kind of things, you can handle that yourself. And so when you go wide, you can do a combination of all of those things. You're not limited. It really and truly is whatever works for you. And because it takes a while for the content to get in there, you have a lot of time to test, to look at the data, to look at the reporting. And that's one of the nice things, is that the reporting is extremely granular. So you get a lot of data. And, and you can even look at trends over time and, take a look at how things are doing and move things around, while you're doing all your testing. All right, so pros and cons. All right. The basic formula is numbers plus time equal larger income. So when you work with an aggregator, you're going to make the smallest amount of money, but it's pretty much hands-off. So most of the work will be done by them. They will continually add platforms. Aggregators always take a percentage, and when you have issues with any of your books, it does take some time to resolve, usually because they're very large entities. And so, they've got a lot of clients, and it's going to take a little while for your stuff to get resolved. If you go straight to the distribution platforms, you're going to make more money, but you have more work because you have to do the individual contracts. You have to upload each individual book. You have to do the Onyx files. You have to do all the metadata. You're going to have to do all of that, and you're responsible for adding new platforms. And that can become a full-time job in itself, just researching all the platforms that are out there, because every time we turn around, somebody else starts a new distribution platform. And because you're dealing with it directly, you can often get your issues resolved fairly easily, and pretty quickly, because again, you hold the contract directly with the distributor. And then, of course, with DIY, if you're writing full-time, you're probably going to need an assistant to help you with, DIY. If you've got a website and a Patreon, and you're doing book boxes and all of that, that can all get very complicated, and it can take away from your writing time, but you control your income 100%, So there's lots of pros and cons to doing this, but I would still say overall that the pros outweigh any kind of cons, because, in my mind, all money that comes in is good money, so. All right, so again, aggregators have a full range of distribution services. Like I mentioned before, Findaway is also Authors Republic. Sorry about the text kind of sliding around here. It worked better on my desktop. Ingram Spark, they also do ebook and hardcover, so if you're already with them, it's fairly easy to add CoreSource, which is their audiobook platform, onto your account. And they will regularly send you emails and say, hey, we just signed Storytell, or we just signed, like they just signed Spotify. They just signed Spotify 2 weeks ago. So they'll send you an email and say, hey, do you want to be on Spotify? Here's your agreement. And you just sign another contract, and boom, when you set up your books, they'll automatically add it to that new platform. So Blackstone. Blackstone is really the only aggregator that is still doing CDs. So if you've seen on Amazon, when you've seen a book listing and they're still showing CDs on there, it's highly likely that they've used Blackstone. The last one here is a little hard to read. It's Zebralution, Zebralution, and they handle Napster and Spotify and Google Play. They're really kind of in the music streaming space, but they've coordinated it to work with audiobooks, because the music streaming space had a real issue with the fact that most of them were set up for musicians, so you could only load 12 or 15 tracks at a time. And as we all know, a lot of books are going to have a lot more chapters than 12 or 15. And so you really couldn't put audiobooks up there unless you completely re-edited it and engineered it so that you had extremely long tracks, and then the platform still couldn't work with it because the tracks were too long. So, but that's one of those things that's, again, starting to change, and all of those platforms are really coming online. And Zebralution does international. So now you've got your smaller, I wouldn't say smaller distributors, but you come down a step from aggregator to distributor. So Hoopla is obviously library, Overdrive is library, Kobo is Walmart, Libro.fm, they are tied into the indie bookstores. So if you really want to see your stuff get into independent bookstores, you definitely want to be on Libro.fm. I know Google Play is here at the conference, so, a lot of folks have had a chance to talk to them, and I know the guy is still walking around, so, you should just go right to him. But Storytell is international, and it handles very few countries, but one of the things I like about it is the performance on it is really phenomenal. It's Sweden, Poland, Denmark, Norway, and I just, I see great numbers come in every single month on Storytell. So, I really recommend, if you're going to do direct deals, that you include that one. All right. So your timelines, 3 to 6 months. 3 to 6 months is how long it takes for most of these folks to ingest your books. So they send you an Excel file, and you have to fill out a ton of metadata on them. And I think I've got, when I stop this, I'll pop up one of those, because I think I brought one of them with me. And you have to do it for every single book. You send in the metadata, then you have to FTP up all the audio files and your book covers, and then over the space of a few months, they start ingesting all your data, and then your books will start appearing. And it takes 3 to 6 months for it to appear on the major platforms. After 6 months, it starts appearing on the smaller platforms like Gloss or Publica or Hummingbird, Next Story, Scribd. It takes quite a while for it to start appearing on those, but also the 6 to 8 month period is when your payouts finally start appearing. So you're going to see, because most of them pay quarterly, some of them pay biannually, and you'll start to see a payout for the first month that your book's listed. From 8 to 10 months, that's when your internationals are going to start appearing. So again, this is why I say you have to be patient, because it's not like Audible. Well, they've gotten so much better now, but you pop stuff up on Audible, and usually within a couple of months it's up there and it's for sale. But with this stuff, you really do just have to kind of hang in there and wait. And then at the 10 to 12 month mark, that's where you can really start seeing how your sales are doing. That's where you can start looking at pie charts and bar charts and really deciding, is this the right aggregator for my books? Is this the right platform? I mentioned Storytell. Storytell does a great job with anything that is science fiction. Anything that's science fiction. Find a way. I see, romance, paranormal, mystery, thriller. Those things crank on those, on those aggregators. So again, it's all about paying attention to your data and seeing what performs best. You're not gonna be able to read this, it doesn't matter. It's on their website, but this is Ingram Spark's list of distributors. So it's and it breaks it down by whether or not it's library or direct to digital and retail. This is Findaway's list of distributors for audio, and you'll see and you'll be able to get a copy of this, because I know they're giving out copies of the PowerPoints, and you'll see there's a lot of overlap. But again, you can customize this and you can choose whatever you want to do or not do. Okay, I said I was going to treat Blackstone a little bit differently, and it's because, one, because Blackstone still does CDs, and because Blackstone has their own platform, which is Downpour. And you will see that, you know, Find a Way puts stuff out on Downpour, and it means that they're going through Blackstone. So the money gets a little muddy because Find a Way is going to take a percentage, but Blackstone is taking a percentage from Find a Way. So you're going through 2 layers before you even see any royalties. If you decide that you want to go direct with Blackstone, they require you to do iTunes and Amazon exclusive with them. So if you've already got audio on Amazon, and you're doing a new series, you wouldn't be able to do it through your account. You would have to do it through Blackstone if you want to be on their platform. If you're going through Find a Way, you don't have that issue. It's just if you're going direct through Blackstone. Okay, so this is the end of the second part. Questions at this point? Yes.
Is it, yeah, cool. So for Blackstone and audio CDs, do you see audio CDs still being a useful thing to have, or is it just all digital and that's how it is now?
People do buy them still. Do they buy a lot of them? Not really. My personal experience was, and I worked in a music studio for a while, so I have a little bit, of a different background with this, but I was really unhappy with the quality of the CDs when I saw them come from Blackstone. The cover inserts and stuff were very poorly printed. The CD itself was okay, but it was very plain. It didn't carry over any artwork. You didn't have any control over it. That was the other issue. They had you just give them a blurb and the front cover art, and you had no control over everything else that went on it. And so I wasn't particularly pleased with it. But I do know people who regularly do CDs. I know people who still use CDs. So yeah, it's still out there for a reason. Oh, wait, we gotta wait for Chris has got it. All right, go.
Real quick on the CDs, what I've seen on that is there's some market for that as gifts, because a lot of people still don't like to give somebody something that they can't hold, but they'll give them a CD. But I had just a quick question on when you had the categories and you had the DIY. With the DIY, are you talking about, okay, I'm just going to sell a download from my website?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. And there's somebody in the back too. So.
I probably don't need the mic. I'm pretty loud too. Mine was just a follow-up to the CDs. I believe it's Tantor and/or Midwest Tape. They have more the CDs are more solid. The packaging is better, whereas the Blackstone packaging that I've seen when it comes in for CDs that we've done is like cardboard type, and then it also depends on the age of the demo. If you have audio, if that audio is going to be for people who are over 60, then they're most likely going to use CDs.
Right. Yep.
They're not going to use an app. If they're younger than that, then they will use an app. So it's kind of the homework you have to do. What is the demo, and are you willing to do enough to train the people to use an app in order to cultivate that listener?
I have really 3 quick questions. The first is, you mentioned data, pulling data. You're talking sales reports like from Ingram Spark. The second question is, do any of these distributors promote or advertise for you when you go on their platforms? And the third one is, can you give any kind of breakdown or percentage of revenue for these different distributors? I do business management for my wife's books. That's why I'm asking these questions. But because I've done Ingram Spark, and we've done one of the largest distributors, and it's a huge difference in sales.
Okay, let's start with question number 1. And by the way, I'm recovering from a concussion, so giving me 3 questions just killed me. So let's do question number 1. So go ahead with question number 1, please.
Question 1 was where you're pulling your data from, and I mean, I've seen sales reports from Ingram Spark, and whether it's a library sale or whether it's some other different type of thing. Do all of these distributors or aggregators provide you with that a monthly report or not?
Yes, so I've actually pulled this up because I knew you would want to see it, so I did pull up one of the distributors so that you can take a look at it, and I'll walk through this, and that's what I was going to do after the questions. So,
Okay,
question
second
2.
one is, do they self-promote for you
No.
or advertise at all?
No.
Like
Nope.
other, okay?
Nope.
And the last one is, do you have like a rough breakdown of percentage of what they take, like you mentioned Ingram Spark, and the percent of royalties that you get?
I cannot release that data because it's specific to the contract that you sign with them. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm all about it, yeah.
I just have one question.
Sure.
If an author is going to go use an aggregator, would you recommend typically just picking one aggregator, or do authors use multiple aggregators?
They often use multiple. You just have to really pay attention to the exclusivity clauses that they have in their contracts, so that you're not running afoul of something. And again, it usually ends up having to do with Audible. Big surprise. So, go ahead.
So, honestly, I'm still not sold, even a little bit.
Okay.
Is there data on what percentage of the market is Audible, I guess, as opposed to all these other distributors?
The last report that the Audio Publishers Association put out with this information was in 2019.
Okay.
I haven't seen, and obviously we have to take the pandemic into effect, so when the next report comes out, it's probably going to be a little wonky. But they were reporting 41% of audiobook sales were Audible, and everything else was wide distribution.
Okay. Because if you go exclusive with Audible, you get more royalties, I believe. It's like 40% versus 25% or something like that. And to me, the math just doesn't really add up, because like with Hoopla, like I have one book that's wide, and then everything else is exclusive. And it seems like if I sell 10,000 audiobooks in a month, it seems if I was taking that down to 25% as opposed to 40%, it just
You're
doesn't-
asking, are you going to make it up on the other platforms?
Right, and I don't think, I know it's genre dependent, and it seems kind of risky. I don't know if it's risky, but especially in a genre that's super time dependent, where when you talk about it, it takes a while for
Right,
them to
so-
aggregate all over the place.
So you bring up an excellent point, which is that if you are in a rapid release genre, then where wide distribution works for you is back catalog. To just continue to lift your back catalog, things that have slowed down, things that aren't performing as well. But I would agree with you completely that it would be, and now that Audible has changed their rules, so after 90 days, you can go into non-exclusive. So you can take your bump, that your boost you're going to get from Audible, and let's say you want to do it for 90 days, or you want to do it for a year, or even 2 years, and then you can say, you know what, this book isn't performing that well. I'm going to pull it into non-exclusive and send it out wide. So, does that answer? Sure.
Do library borrows count as sales to some extent?
Yes. So how the library borrows work is, and this has to do with how much control you have over your pricing. When you do wide distribution, you price for 3 different models. You price for retail, which is your regular consumer. Then you price for agency, which basically are other platforms that are going to carry your book, and then you price separately for what are called rental goods, and that's library. And you always price your library higher than anything else, because they're going to buy one copy and then do digital borrows against it. So you actually get a sale of the book every time a library buys a book, and then you continue to get library borrows against it. Yes?
Do you need to have a separate ISBN for audiobooks that are retail and audiobooks that are for rental goods?
You can use the same one, and you can actually use your ISBN that Audible gives you. So if you've got a paperback or a hardback with your ebook and they give you an ISBN for free, you can go ahead and use that on wide distribution. They don't make you buy a separate one.
But if you're going to go Audible first, exclusive, and then go wide, and it takes months to do the wide, can you start the process?
Yes.
So you can go
Because
ahead
at any time you can pause it. That's the one nice thing, is that a lot of them say, okay, let's say you get a book bub, and all of a sudden your audio starts going crazy because your ebook has gotten a book bub, and you're selling a whole bunch on Amazon. You're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to go wide. I want to keep getting that sweet 40%. You can go ahead and put it in pause, and they will put a hold on doing any distribution.
All right, so you can go ahead and, when you got that book ready to go, you can go ahead and put it solo, the exclusive on Audible, and at the same time be putting it to the
You
aggregators or
you
whatever?
can, but here's the problem with that, is you run the risk of the aggregator actually getting it up there fairly quickly. And if they do, then you're going to run into an issue with Audible, because you can't have it on both the platforms. So I wouldn't do it right when the book comes out, but I would wait past that 90-day period on Audible, and then I would start the process. Anybody else? Okay, I've pulled up Storytell's dashboard, and basically how they work is it's by listening hours. So you get pool play for listening hours, and you can filter it, so you can choose. I hope the internet isn't going to crap out on me here. All right, so you can, basically change your data and say, okay, I want to look at the last quarter, and we'll go ahead and look at the last quarter just for fun. And so you're going to see here, that it's still thinking. Hurry up, think. And it looks like it hasn't. Nope, it hasn't picked it up. It's just covering a week. I don't know why it's doing this. Let's try last 30 days and see if it will do its thing. Okay, there we go. There's some numbers. So it shows you basically your top listening days, and you can plan promos around that as you start gathering data, because you really and truly are going to start seeing some patterns. So over a month, it's going to track, and you're going to see that on certain days you're getting little to no listening time at all. Like on a Saturday, you're not getting any listening time, but boy, on Sunday you got a ton of listening time. It's going to show you your top categories, and then it's going to break it out by the actual book, and it shows you the countries, that it was sold in. And then you're going to get a total number of hours, and that way you can kind of figure out, oh, hey, I've increased my hours, because it will tell you that on your dashboard, oh, you've increased your hours by 100% or 300% or 400% over the last month. So right now I'm down for the week, but that's because I'm here and I'm not out promoting. But again, they have a rating system, but it doesn't have reviews. So Storytell does not offer reviews. Some of the other platforms do, but Storytell happens to be one that doesn't. And in terms of putting the books into their system. Okay, here we go. All right. Is anybody here familiar with Findaway's Passport? Have you done Findaway already? I'm at 5 minutes. Oh boy. All right. I'm gonna jump. But feel free to ask me a ton of questions because I don't do anything after this. All right. I'm gonna really quickly introduce a new distribution platform that Spectrum designed. And what it is it is connected TV. I basically call it like the, oh great, not responding. That's what I need. It is like Netflix for audiobooks. So Spectrum has the first digital channel on Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, and Xbox for audiobooks. And you can use it either through a smart TV or an actual device. Maybe some of you folks have seen the hockey pucks that you can get for Apple TV. And although we're not doing Apple TV, there's huge exclusivity issues around Apple TV, so we're not even going to try pushing audiobooks there. And again, these are your three main players. And most of the time you can port them, if you've ever used one, you can port them through different parts of your house. Roku's have been in the space the longest. They've been there since 2006. They have over 51 million users in the United States. They cover 18 countries. They just added Germany a week ago. So on our Roku channel, you can search by keyword, author, or narrator. The system retains bookmarks. You can create watch lists and playlists. There are two different ways that authors get paid on this platform, which is either advertising-based, where 2 ad pods run, one at the beginning of the book, one at the very middle of the book during a regular chapter break, or there is a monthly subscription. So it's basically a combination of pool play, and then 70% of the advertising revenue goes to the authors. The audience for this is mostly cord cutters, you know, folks that are not doing cable, folks that want, you know, more media. These are the kind of folks that use all these channels. Niche channels rule on Roku. I actually have a background in this. I do a lot of video production, and I was a beta developer for Roku back in 2006. So this is something that I actually really enjoy doing, and I loved being able to combine audiobooks and, you know, OTT, over-the-top platforms. So this is going to be a little difficult. Well, actually, you probably can see it better than I can. Which is that the users are continuing to grow. I mean, the graph starts in 2015. And Leichman Research Group did a study, and 80% of TVs in homes in the US have at least one CTV device. 2 minutes? All right. I already mentioned that the platforms that it's going to be on. It's just a little promo thing that I had at my booth, so you can ignore that for right now. Come on, come on, play, 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 play. Okay, all right, we're gonna jump out of there. Hopefully. Come on. Escape. Oh, great. Now I get to do Control-Alt-Delete. Can you tell I'm impatient? Oh, that didn't work. Great. I love technology. I absolutely love it. All right, and so now it's going to spin. But when I can, I'm going to jump really quickly to a minute-long video that shows you exactly how the channel works. We did a beta test for 6 months. We had 40 authors that signed up for the beta test, including a couple of people in this room. Thank you very much. We really appreciated it. And we had some fantastic people who spent a ton of time checking over every single book and making sure that they play and do their thing. We did a ghost launch of the channel, and basically, man, this really is just not behaving. All right, let's see if I can pull up the video. There we go. When we did the ghost launch, We didn't even tell anybody we were going to launch. We just did it to see what would happen and see what kind of data would happen. And we had over 12,200 installations of the channel just from people searching for audiobooks on Roku without a shred of promotion. And we had over 200 people go ahead and sign up for a monthly subscription even though the channel isn't live. So, with that many people in the Roku, viewing space, 51 million, I think there's tons of potential to grow. So this is a very short video that will show you a little bit about how you load the channel. Come on, play. Of course. But, this is your typical Roku screen. Let me see if I can fast forward. You see, it's not even going to do anything. It's just going to lock up on me. This is just evil. I've run out of time. I apologize about this. I am definitely available for questions. So, please snag me in the hallway and we'll, I'll answer anything you want. I'll keep the laptop going, and once it decides to behave, I can show you anything you want to see. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for your patience with the technology. Dude.